Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and the Death of the Silver Surfer, issue number 2. You know what this means in England? That's kind of how I feel about this book. There's so much really cool stuff in here, and then in easy ways taken out. There's a part somewhere in the early middle of this book that I'm not a fan of, and I'm going to get to that. I'm going to explain what bothers me and how you actually go about doing this, and why the rest of this book is actually pretty good, and where I think this book is going to go. First, we're going to talk about who made this book. So Greg Pak is the writer. Sumit Kumar is on art. Frank D. Armada doing the colors. And VC's Joe Sabino on letters. The cover artist is Dyke Ruan, and Silver Surfer was created by Stan frickin' Lee and Jack frickin' Kirby. So this book is, for the most part, pretty darn good. I mean, like, it's hard to argue how good the book is. There's good stuff in here. We show up with Galactus is encased in stone, ruined someplace, and that evil dude, whatever his name was from the first issue, was coming down with his spaceship to come close to Galactus, and you see the Punisher there. No, not Frank Castle, the Punisher. Galactus actually had a herald named the Punisher, and he was kind of a guardian. Just cracked my neck. I think the previews are still going, so you can't see that I just turned my neck to the left. Anyway, tilted, I should say. So this robot, the Punisher, is there, and it's on auto saying, what's it say? Go back. This is not a place for living things. The only thing here is death. The death takes the form of energy that no mortal can control. It will kill you and everyone you know. Go back. This is not a place for living things. And it's just on repeat the entire time. They decide to creep into their energy banks to destroy this thing because they can't destroy the thing otherwise. It's still talking, even though it's, reduced to slag at this point. The idea that they say, hey, we're not going to be able to get back home if we break into the reserves to destroy this thing is clearly and obviously because this psychopathic leader guy thinks he's going to be able to find something here that's going to power his ship or power him or whatever, right? The Silver Surfer is helping this little blonde-haired kid get an apple out of the tree. I think he got stuck in the tree trying to get an apple. He's bringing him down. The one kid says, "Hey, aren't you the guy who helped those people in South America someplace stop the war?" He's like, "Yes." He's like, "Well, then why are you here?" He's like, "I was there, now I'm here. And this is where you are." Okay, I'm going to sound mean here, but I don't have too much of a problem with it because of what happens later in this book. And I'm going to get to that next, I believe. This is a person who has no deep thinking, history, who is trying to think deeply. He's trying to sound like the Silver Surfer. He's not Stan Lee. Greg Pak is not Stan Lee, right? He's just not going to get it. He's not going to get these deeper thoughts, these philosophical thoughts. Jack Kirby even had something to do with that. And there have been plenty of writers who've had that. I still haven't read Dan Slott's book. I'm positive that Dan Slott is capable of getting that deep Silver Surfer level of thinking. Greg Pak, for all of his worth, is not able to do this. He's simply not capable of getting that level of deep thinking and that philosophical verbiage. I mean, like words are words, so I shouldn't just say verbiage, but it's more than that. It's just the idea of getting to that level of thought that Silver Surfer is always in, apparently. When you pull him out of his deep thoughts, it's usually only by violence that you would do that. Then you're going to evoke that emotional response. If you do it through some sadness, you're going to get that teardrop emotional response. And if you do it with joy, like the only thing that can really pull him out of his deep thoughts are emotions, human emotions usually, right? But that's all we really know as humans. That's the only thing that really pulls the Silver Surfer out of his deep thoughts and the idea of talking and this is the way he talks. Suddenly, some cops show up. Don't move, you monster! And they're pointing guns at him. I guess it's supposed to be the regular police, and they're calling for backup. But clearly, this is supposed to be a version of ICE. Why do I say this? Because you just look at what continues to happen. They they freak out. One of the kids goes and throws an apple at the cops, the little blonde kid, and then they start shooting. So these are obviously like the absolute stupidest cops in the world. This is what a weak-minded person thinks cops do. Now, am I saying that's what Greg Pak thinks? Maybe. But at the very least, you'd have to say that's what he thinks we would believe that they would do. A kid throws an apple at cops, and they just open fire. Come on, man. What are we doing here? Like, this is what you're giving us? This is supposed to be, I mean, there is a following behind Silver Surfer that almost qualifies as cult-like, and this is what you're going to give us? So Silver Surfer stops the bullets, melts them, melts the gun. The freaking little black kid screams out, "Run!" And he's like, "No, don't worry, they can't hurt you anymore." He's trying to say that, and he turns around and says, "Get the hell out of here, you freak!" And he throws the apple at Silver Surfer. And it's like, really? I get it. The kid was, and then the parents show up also. The kid was like on the edge of, why are you here? And da 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 da. But whatever. It is what it is. Anyway, so the mom is there talking to the new superhero chick. I don't know what her name is, and I don't care. They're not doing a lot to, okay, Major something. They're not doing a good job at really saying everybody's names in here. So whatever. The chick talking to Beeper, the little robot guy. Anyway, and a little bit of confusion here on the difference between sarcastic and sardonic. Just saying. Little confusion, somewhat interchangeable, but when you look at it seriously, it's like, does sardonic sound like it's more original than sarcastic? Because this is sarcasm. Anyway, inconsequential. I'm just annoyed. So at one point, the mom, they're looking in the past at this girl who's this super soldier, this Halo chick in the future, and she's considered by her mom just built different, right? Differently. Anyway, I'm an English teacher. So then you see Hiro, the young Hulk, right? Hulk's son. And he's running, and the chick shows up and she blasts him, and then they're like, oh my God, you can kill him. It's like, don't worry, he's built different. And then he comes around, rah! And she's going after him because he's an alien. And you see on the news that there's some commentators, I guess they're supposed to be Fox. I'm surprised they don't just call it Wolf, News or something like that. Anyway, goes and says, call it Red Fox News. That would be funny. Be a whole bunch of poop jokes going on. Anyway, so the one girl says something to the effect of, oh yeah, they're rounding up all these people, but do you think they're going to start rounding up Captain Marvel and Thor also? I mean, they're aliens too. And he's like, oh, we're not going to go after those aliens. They're going after Silver Surfer because he's obviously a freak. Look at with that shiny silver skin. Okay, so when they look differently than us, then we're going to go after them. So I think a new word for Greg Pak to learn would be innuendo or subtlety, right? To imply a thing without actually saying the thing. I'd have much rather felt like I could identify with what this person was saying as opposed to hearing a person with pink hair on this side and purple hair on that side or whatever, extremely overweight and jolly, that kind of jolly, holding up a poorly written sign with a misspelling in it, horrible grammar, and going like that. That's all I registered when I saw that. I think I'm kind of done with making excuses for Greg Pak. I've got better thing to do than to read a comic book and be sucked back into like a Facebook post-war, or a Twitter battle, the monkeys from the Superman movie, right? I got far better things to do than that. So, Greg Pak, you can keep this comic book. I I don't think I'll be reading anything from Greg Pak anymore anyway. After this, like I said, I'm done trying to sugarcoat how terrible a writer Greg Pak is. Never forget, he and Joe Quesada both acknowledged that Joe Quesada is the one that gave Greg Pak the his rub, his first intro to actual Marvel Comics writing, and he gave Pak the script for doing Planet Hulk and World War Hulk for the most part, but definitely Planet Hulk. So all of that good stuff that we saw that we loved about Planet Hulk was not Greg Pak. All he had to do was take the script and write the dialogue for the stuff when a bunch of it was already done. That was Joe Quesada, and both of them acknowledged that. And I think and now that Joe Quesada's gone, I just don't think that people can sit around and do this. I think the editors should be blamed for this also. I think this was just terrible, a terrible attempt at what the rest of us would call writing, and this guy calls preaching. Don't buy this comic book. If you're a Silver Surfer fan, at the very least. But anyway, that's it for me, guys. And as far as I'm concerned, that's it for Peck. I'll talk to you later. Like the video, watch an ad. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.